Well, 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 would you look at that? Look who decided to join the party. The Chinese Navy has officially joined the chat as they are currently positioning 6 Chinese warships closer to the action in Israel. And I know what some people are going to say. I've already seen the excuses. Well, the Chinese Navy was conducting training exercises in the Gulf of Oman. Wrong. Those exercises are already over. These ships should be heading back to wherever the hell they came from, but instead, the Chinese military is strategically positioning them closer to the war in Israel, sending them for a goodwill trip to Kuwait. Now, where have we heard something like that before? I can't seem to remember. I can't quite put my finger on it. Oh yeah, just last week when the U.S. military decided to send aircraft carriers to Israel, claiming that they're only there to show support. They're only there to show support. The Chinese Navy is only going to the Middle East for a goodwill visit, I swear. I absolutely hate modern warfare in the age of woke political correctness. The powers that be know that we live in a participation trophy society. Therefore, they know they can tell us anything, and people are either too dumb or too sensitive to question the narratives that they put out there. This is not a picnic at the park. These ships have enough firepower to destroy the entire world. You don't send them for goodwill visits to show support. I mean, at this rate, how long will it be before people start firing off friendly missiles? These are peaceful nukes. If you believe what they're telling us now, then in the future, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to be so dumbed down. A freaking nuclear bomb will drop on New York City. A nuclear bomb will wipe out an entire state. But because we're told it's a friendly nuclear bomb, people will be like, oh, it's okay. I guess they were just feeling extra friendly today. You know, oh, as we send warships to a war zone, we just want to show support. They're just out there showing their support. As China positions warships closer to the war zone, oh, it's just a visit. It's just a goodwill visit. It's nothing, folks. You know, like literally, how far out are we from countries firing off, oh, here's a friendly missile. Watch it explode in the name of friendliness. Watch people's body parts literally get disconnected from their body in the name of friendliness, in the name of goodwill and support. It's like, yeah, I'm sure the Chinese military waited for all-out war to break out in the Middle East. They waited for the U.S. to send their battleships before sending their own battleships for a goodwill visit to the Middle East in the middle of this war. It's common sense, people. It's like, what if you heard a knock at your door, the doorbell ring, right? You go look out the peephole, you see someone standing there with an AK-47 in both hands. They got grenades and extra ammo strapped to their chest. They got pistols and knives tucked away in little compartments all over their vest and their cargo pants. They got an RPG strapped to their back, but they tell you, hey, I'm just here for a goodwill visit. Are you going to open the door? Are you going to open the door for a goodwill visit? No. This is not a goodwill visit. And I mean, it's not funny because a lot of lives are probably going to be lost here, but it's funny because they're literally just saying anything in this day and age. They don't even try, they don't even care, because they just know that everyone's dumb. There's no other explanation that I can think of. I mean, what do people really buy this stuff? Do people really believe this nonsense? And I ask that question knowing that people really do, because I see people who believe this stuff on my Instagram, on Twitter, and on YouTube every single day. And it almost makes me sick to my stomach, because I know that these people are so far gone that there's no reaching them anymore. There's no reaching these people. They're gone. They're goners. We just got to let them float away. There's no reasoning with these people. They'll believe anything except for the truth. They have a hard time believing the truth, right? But as all of this is happening, as we're watching, as we're watching China position its warships, America has already given the order to prepare for battle to their various ships that are in the region. The U.S. is still trying to talk Israel out of this ground invasion, or at the very least, they're trying to delay this ground invasion so humanitarian aid can reach the people of Gaza. Now, let's have a difficult conversation. I want you to put your emotions to the side and think as if you were a military commander. Think as if you were someone in charge of Israel's military. Think as if you were someone who's out there calling the shots. Does it really make sense to continue to delay this invasion? All for humanitarian aid? I mean, of course, I want people to have food and water and first aid. I wish that no one had to die over this nonsense, but they're going to. So when I approach it as if I'm a military leader, as if I'm someone calling the shots, I look at delaying this invasion and I think it's a bad idea. It's almost like America is telling Israel, hey, hold off on the invasion so we can make sure that Hamas is fed. We got to make sure Hamas has enough water. We got to make sure Hamas has enough supplies. We got to make sure that Hamas is fully prepared for this invasion before you invade, right? Because we need to make sure that there's more casualties than what there needed to be. We got to ensure that this violent situation is as violent as possible. That's the way I look at it. I mean, it's war. War sucks. War is ugly. In a time of war, you're usually not concerned about taking care of your enemies. But make no mistake about it. The longer Israel delays the invasion, the longer their enemies have to prepare. And is it really worth it for some humanitarian aid? I know your emotions will tell you, yeah, the little kids need to eat and all this stuff. But let's get real here. You know, back in the day, military commanders, they wanted to win. Back in the day, you didn't go to war to just fight for decades and decades for no reason like we do now. Back in the day, you went to war to win. Back in the day when you went to war, the main priority as a military commander was victory and ensuring that, you know, the least amount of people are hurt as possible. Basically, you wanted to have the least amount of casualties as possible, right? As a military commander, your priority is to win and to make sure that you get as many of your soldiers back home in one piece as possible. But that's not how these wars are waged in the modern day. Which in my opinion should tell you a lot. It tells me a lot. Because if this is not about victory, if one of your top priorities is not making sure that your soldiers are okay, then what's the point? To line people's pockets so politicians can make money? So the military industrial complex can continue rolling out weapons and raking in money. What's the real point? So strategically speaking, as I'm watching this play out, Israel's military commanders aren't ensuring victory. They're not taking the necessary steps to ensure that as many of their soldiers get home as possible. No, they're holding off. They're delaying the invasion as their enemies have truckloads of food and supplies rolled into them, basically ensuring that this fight is going to drag out longer than it needed to. This fight's going to drag out for a long time. Will there really be a clear winner? Has there been a clear winner in any of the wars that America has fought in since World War II? No, not really. There's been a lot of occupations. There's been a lot of us going to war and fighting and fighting and fighting with no real goals, no real paths to an end game or victory, with no precautions to make sure that we get as many troops home as possible. So as I'm watching this ground invasion continue to get delayed, I can't help but think, oh, Hamas is loving this. They're on the other side digging trenches. They're getting their tunnels together. There's probably weapons secretly being transported to them in these trucks that are supposedly only full of food and water and first aid. And even if it is just food and water and first aid, where do you think it's going? Do you think they're going to give it directly to the women and kids who are getting hurt? No, of course not. You know, back in the day, when real wars used to be fought and waged, one of the number one goals was to always cut off your enemy's supply lines. Literally, like the number one thing your enemy would usually do, or the number one thing that you would usually do to your enemy in a time of war, is you would try to cut off their supplies. Yet look at what's happening right now. In the modern day age of woke nonsense, people are sitting back, delaying invasions. We're going to delay this war. We're going to delay this invasion so our enemy is able to get some supplies in. We want to make sure our enemies are well fed and perfectly hydrated for the fight that we're about to bring to them. Really think about it. The number one goal used to be to cut off the supplies. Because if you cut off supply routes, then you can kind of put the enemy between a rock and a hard place. You would bring down the morale. You have the soldiers out here hungry. They can't properly feed their people. That was the number one goal of warfare, yet here we are watching an invasion be delayed so supplies can make it to Israel's enemies. You know, back in the day, we did not send our enemies hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, before invading them. Yet America just sent Gaza $100 million. Here's $100 million. We're going to delay the invasion. Make sure you spend this money. Make sure you spend this money right, and then we'll invade later. You send Iran, like $6 billion, and then 2 weeks later, you're on the verge of going to war with Iran? Make it make sense, people. That's why I say the world is a stage, and we're just all spectators watching this play out. And if you pay attention closely enough, if you know your history and you know your stuff, you can see through the smoke and mirrors. Look, I'm not saying that this war is fake or that these wars that we've been fighting in are fake. They're very much real. People are very well losing their lives, but the reasons behind why we're going to war, the agendas, the motives, they're vastly different than what we're hearing out here. The real motives and agendas behind these wars are way different than what they tell the public. So I'm looking at these idiotic, nonsensical decisions being made, and I find it hard to believe that they're just this stupid. These military commanders aren't that stupid. If I didn't know any better, and I'm starting to believe, that they're just trying to ensure that as much chaos as possible breaks loose during this war. It looks like they're trying to ensure that as many lives are lost as possible. But you let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you're feeling generous, drop a super thanks. Or if you want to support my channel for free, you could do so by sharing this video, hitting that like button, subscribing, ringing that notification bell. And as always, I'll talk to you all in the next video.